Well, there seems to be some good news in the fight against the virus as cases in some hotspots like New York.
However, a new report from the CDC says things could be worse this winter if COVID-19 spikes during peak flu season. Dr. Zorba Pastor joins us from his office in Oregon. We're going to talk about this and other coronavirus-related headlines. And in the next segment, we'll be taking your phone calls. So if you have a question for Zorba, get ready to call in, and Mark and I will give you the number in just a little bit.
Okay.
So, Zorba.
Hi, Zorba.
Hi, Zorba. Good to see you.
How you doing? Good to see you guys.
We're doing well. So let's talk about projecting into the winter. And that seems like a scary scenario, COVID-19 running up against flu season.
Right. And that's the fear, and that we don't know exactly whether or not that will happen, and that's exactly what the CDC is talking about. We know in the wintertime, that's when influenza tends to peak. Obviously, we have an influenza season. And of course, many of the symptoms of influenza share the symptoms of COVID. And so it will be quite difficult. And the reason has a lot to do with testing. So influenza, we know the drug Tamiflu will actually help reduce the risk of hospitalization. We know immunization, of course, is the #1 thing to do for influenza, but there's a fear that it actually may come back with a vengeance in the fall. We don't know the answer, but the fear is out there, and I think that's what the CDC is talking about. I think there's an important point here. One of the points are, when the influenza vaccine comes out in the fall, it's really crucial for everyone to get that influenza vaccine. And the reason is it'll stop the spread of influenza as much, and that will allow us to see whether or not COVID is coming into the area. That, along with COVID testing, can make a big difference ultimately in what happens this fall.
And there likely won't be a COVID vaccine by the fall.
Oh, no, there won't. It takes a long time. It probably takes a year to a year and a half at minimum for a vaccine to come out, because we've got to make sure, #1, it works. Do the antibodies that it produces actually stay in our body? And #1, is it safe? Or #2, is it safe? We know, for instance, the vaccine for the swine flu was not totally safe, that it caused Guillain-Barré syndrome. And so as soon as that happened, people stopped taking the vaccine. So safety and effectiveness have to be there. And it's incredibly important to make sure the vaccine is produced right. So there is no rush for that. That's something that just takes a lot of time, despite the fact that everyone is really working hard, cooperating, and trying to get a good vaccine.
Do you think there's going to be some fatigue along the way here, that people are going to stop social distancing and do things they shouldn't be doing?
Oh, of course, there'll definitely be fatigue. But the fatigue that happens when we stop social distancing, if it's not appropriate, what's going to happen after that is we're then going to see a spike in COVID-19. Then we're going to see a spike in deaths that come from that. So how this is going to actually transpire over the next month or two is still so difficult, because we have never seen anything like this in our lifetime at all. And so we really don't know. It's uncharted territory of when it's appropriate to open up, and then how much do we open up? So there's no clear-cut answer. But once again, science leads the way. Science is the way to go. Medical care is scientifically based, and that's the best chance we have of surviving this as a society.
Let's keep politics out of it.
Exactly,
I think that's the important
and just
thing.
keep doing what we're supposed to be doing. Right.
All right, we're going to take your phone calls coming up. 270-9933 is the number to call. 270-9933. Zorba, there is some glimmer of hope. Some cases like in New York are going down.
Right, and it means that they're flattening the curve in New York City. And I think if you look at the cases in Wisconsin, you can also see that we are flattening the curve, that the social distancing really has made a difference. There was a spike in the number of cases yesterday. I think it was 200 extra cases of COVID that we discovered. It was only 150 the day before, but it's not going up nearly as much as we thought, and that's because what we're doing is making a difference. We're not spreading it as quickly from person to person, and that is allowing our hospitals and our medical care really to be able to treat the sickest of the sickest and keep them alive.
Oh, that's such good news.
Yeah, it is. 270-9933. All the lines are ringing. We'll get to your calls right after this.